an urban fantasy science fiction thriller mystery, a cast of characters that includes the city itself as a character. This is the weird and crazy and amazing world of China Mieville's Perdido Street Station. So hello, welcome to the channel. My name is Zach, and on this channel it's mostly science fiction and fantasy reviews with a mix of a little of everything in between that suits my interest. And sometimes those interests take a turn for the weird and strange in Perdido Street Station. This is a book that I see mentioned a lot, and for good reason, because even though I finished it about a little over a week ago, it still sticks with me. It's just that kind of book where it was so imaginative, so rich, and so unique that I can't help but continue thinking about the cast of characters that, yes, includes, I would say, without a doubt, the city as a character. So to start things off, what is the book? What is Perdido Street Station? It is very hard to describe, but I was trying to write down my thoughts for this review, and it's definitely a mix of science fiction and fantasy. Our main character is a scientist, and it's also very fantastical. It's not science fiction in the sense of we're going off on a spaceship for a space opera like Dune or The Expanse, but there is science that happens. Again, the main character being a scientist uses science techniques, but the world itself, it's not your typical science world because there are like alien-ish creatures, but grounded in the world and grounded in the world of fantasy. Some of the characters are, kind of fantasy trope-ish characters or designs that you would know. And that's the cool thing, is because this is a world where these weird creatures that seem out of place live side by side with humans, and it's this interaction in the metropolis of the city. So a city where it's a bunch of different cultures coming together in this world. Those cultures are other races and other kinds of beings, all coexisting in their own weird urban way like you'd find in a large city. So it's a very, very interesting dynamic. And what also got me the most in this book was Mieville's writing. So China Mieville writing is very rich. This is my second book by the author. Because he's an author that I've heard a lot for a good reason after reading this. I first read his collaboration with Keanu Reeves, The Book of Elsewhere, because yes, it was Keanu Reeves, so I saw the news and the publicity he was getting because, of course, it's Keanu Reeves. But I put the hold on for that. I read it. It was actually pretty good. I enjoyed it a lot. But in that book, Mieville, as a co-author with Reeves, he is playing within the confines of the Berserker universe, which is this character that Keanu created. There's a comic, and yes, the main character looks like Keanu Reeves. It looks like John Wick. As an action hero, he's an immortal warrior. It's a very cool, very imaginative story. But even though Mieville's writing is telling this tale of the Berserker in this world, he is playing in that sandbox. So he doesn't have the liberty to stretch his imagination, which is, I guess, what he's known for. And now, having read this full-length Mieville novel, I definitely see why he's part of this new weird genre. The other comparison I've seen this book to, or the author, is Vandermeer's Annihilation, which I started and gave up on because I just couldn't get into it. And that's what I really want to talk about with Perdido Street Station. So this is a book that I didn't get into at first. It was just almost too weird. So I reread the first couple chapters twice because I was listening to it while commuting. So the first 30 minutes of the audiobook, I was semi-distracted at times because I'm watching for cars, for traffic. So sometimes my mind wanders, and even though, yes, I of course try my best to pull my mind and my attention back to the book, they're just, you're going to wander even if you were physically reading. And the world was so rich that I felt like I missed too much in these early chapters because I just couldn't get my bearings. That it wasn't so much that, you miss a word said or here and there and it's fine, but until you get fully immersed in the world, I really had to pay attention for probably the first hour and a half, 2 hours of the audiobook, which is like maybe the first 100, 200 pages. So it's pretty dense, the writing, in the sense that, it's just not the world you're used to. It's not castles and fancy settings or an urban setting of a city. It's a city with its own character, and the writing is so descriptive of the characters, the people, the world, the rooms they're in. Yeah, I felt like I was in the rooms with the characters, dealing with the threats that they're dealing with, the mysteries. And it was such an immersive experience. So once I kind of pushed through a little bit and got my bearings, I found myself reading this and totally having that movie in your mind. I could see the world, the rich steampunk, I think maybe is the good analogy for the world, because it's such like a lived in city. I could see the world in my mind, like the dirty city, the grime, and the creatures inhabiting it. And it was just, the writing was just really imaginative, really immersive, I guess is the best word. And I really enjoyed it. I loved it, the world that Mieville has created. So that was definitely the strength. And the characters, the city as a character. If there were some negatives, I think the negative was kind of the mystery threat that we're leading up to about the first 50%. And about the halfway point, our characters, they discover what this threat is, and it takes the whole rest of the book to kind of deal with it. So while the early book it does set up, there's about 2 or 3, I guess you could say, main storylines going on, even if there may be like 4 or 5 total like subplots going on at any one time, with each of the main characters kind of getting their own plot point, and there's a couple things going on in the background. But once the kind of the immediate threat, I guess you could say, appears and we understand what it is about the halfway point, I felt it dragged a bit, and we're really dealing with this for a good chunk of the second half of the book. When in my mind, not that it wasn't bad, maybe you are drawn to that, but I want to see the other characters at times. I wanted to know what was happening in their storylines, the other 2 main storylines. And I felt like we spent a little too much time with this one that, while it was interesting, I think it a little bit overstayed its welcome. And I feel even weird talking about this because I'm spending maybe more time than I would dedicate in another review to just talking about this threat, this vague threat I'm making for non-spoiler reasons, for taking so long. But everything else was so good. So maybe it stood out to me that when everything else was just amazing, to have a couple parts that weren't as amazing, it just maybe stood out more, even though it didn't really detract from the entire experience. Because I still enjoyed, again, the world, the characters, following the characters, learning about them, learning about their cultures and the wider world. And that is definitely kind of sandwiched that little bit of criticism with some positive stuff. I think the world building in general was, just amazing. So I talked a lot about the city and how I loved the city and the characters and how it felt like a big city. It felt like a New York or like a Paris, a very rich, lived in old world city where it has character. It has different races, different peoples living together, living, working, fighting, dying, figuring things out together. But more than that is also the larger world. So as we're kind of introduced to these races or other things that happen throughout the book, we're also given hints of a larger world. So there is a world that Mieville has crafted outside of New Crobazon. So New Crobazon is the city. Perdido Street Station is the station. It's like a train station, but it's there's so much more. We're given just the slightest hints. And I think that's one of the things that really draws me into books, when we're given a world and then we're given glimpses to the wider world. And there is still a sense of mystery where I do want to keep reading and figuring out what's going on next. I think the classical example for this for me is Lord of the Rings, which is one of the early books that I read years upon years ago in elementary school. And in that novel, yes, we have the main plot of the hobbits, but we're given the hints of the elves, of the dwarves, and we're given these little drops of hints of the larger world, of the past, what's Gandalf's past. And that's how I felt, that sense of wonder and wanting to learn more. And in Perdido Street Station, that just like we're giving glimpses of the larger, I guess, hierarchy that Gandalf deals in, we're giving glimpse of this character and how they fit into not the book that we're reading right now in New Crobuzon, but how they relate to the larger part of their world and society at large and the world at large and this wider world and how it's all interconnected. So I think that was so well done. I love that larger world building, that there is more to it than just New Crobuzon, that there's a whole larger world out there. And even, here's the hints, an extra dimensional world. So it even has some crazy like hints that it's not just like the physical world, that there's other realms, multi-dimension, maybe not multiverse, but like there's other planes of existence, I guess you could say. It's very weird, and we're just given that hint of that, so it's not that much of a spoiler, but it's really cool, almost like a Cthulhu kind of mythos, that there's something sinister going on, that why is this world so messed up like it is. So very cool, very interesting world. Love the characters, love the world building. Again, maybe criticism, there's a slight pacing towards the middle half into the finale, but on the bright side, the finale is satisfying. Everything does get wrapped up. We do get all the plots resolved in their own way. Some of the other plot lines that, again, I personally wanted to explore further, they do at least get wrapped up in the end. We do get the resolution, and we're even filled in on some backstory, which was frankly good to get, that I really, because I was so curious about some of these larger things, and we do get the payoff at the end of what's happening. And the book ends on a little bit of an open-ended interpretive ending. It's not full closure, that we are definitely can see more happening with these characters, but what I've read is the next installment in this world, the Baslog world is the next books are about different characters in the world. So that actually makes me even more interested, because as I said, one of the strong points of that to me was the fact that the world was so rich, that so if I don't have to follow these characters, that's actually a bonus, because I want to learn so much more about the world. And I'm kind of excited to read the next book in this series of just to explore the world, explore China Mieville's writing, and see what other crazy things he came up with in this universe. So very cool. Who's it for? Yeah, that's what I was trying to rack my brain on, of who could this be for. It's definitely for fans of urban fantasy, because it takes place in an urban setting, but I'd hate to say modern, because it's a little bit modern, but it's a little bit backwards, but it's not, because it's not our world. So it's definitely kind of speculative fiction, fantasy, but also a bit of science. It's a bit of science fiction fantasy. Jeff Vandermeer's Annihilation was the one that I could find the most maybe parallels to, because it's Earth-ish, but definitely like an alternate weird Earth. So because I kind of didn't finish that, but I did push through and finish Perdido Street Station, it makes me think that maybe I would enjoy Annihilation, and I should push through that and give it a second try. And the other books, because I'm reading it, the First Law universe, I think it maybe has similarities, not that it's fantasy setting, but just the writing style. It's but I just read it, so it's not so much the writing style, I guess more the grimdark-ish world. And I don't know if you know if that's the right way. So let me know if you've read a First Law book and you've read Perdido. Is that a good one-to-one comparison? Because like the vibes are maybe the same, but it's definitely not the same, because it's not like a medieval fantasy with blood and guts. It's more magical science fiction, weird realism. I'm really drawing a blank of what I can compare it to, because reading First Law, it's kind of sort of vibes, but kind of not. It's not really like a Stormlight. But maybe the world building is a bit like a Lord of the Rings, only because it has that sense of mystery in a larger world, but is kind of a bit of a mystery thriller. So it's not like a grand fantasy adventure. It's so hard to define what Perdido Station is, other than it was good. So what I want to say in conclusion is, it's just good. It's just weird. It's good. Go into it knowing that it's going to be a little bit weird. It's going to take you for a ride. It's a little bit of fantasy. It's a little bit of science fiction. It's a little bit of thriller, mystery, but it's just a time in the world. It's good to read. It was interesting, and I enjoyed myself. I thought it was a really well done book. So thanks for watching this review of China Mieville's Perdido Street Station, and I hope you check it out yourself. And if you have, please recommend to me what else it could be like, and how else can I scratch this interesting itch of another world. I don't know what else to compare it to other than to read the next book in the series by Mieville or more by the same author. So thanks for watching and have a great day.